St. Anna Pede is a small Flemish village not far from Brussels. In the center of the village, the church bears witness to times long ago. This inconspicuous Gothic church would have been totally forgotten had it not been for the fact that Peter Brueghel the Elder gave it a special place in his work. It stands on the horizon in the painting, The Parable of the Blind. Against the idyllic background of the village, mankind's tragic destiny is depicted. Carrying sticks and linking arms, 6 poor blind men goose-step towards the pit of treacherous water. One by one, like falling dominoes in the game of death, the first one drags the others with him in his fall. In a masterpiece of composition, Brueghel arranges the procession across the picture's surface. Figure after figure, face after face, the tragedy increases towards its culmination in the nucleus of the painting. The last in line goes straight on, suspecting nothing. His gentle expression reflects the bliss of ignorance. The blind man in front of him raises his nose in recognition and smells the uncertainty which threatens him. The third in line shuffles hesitatingly forward and feels the calamity on the shoulder of the blind man in front of him. In a defensive gesture, he throws his head backwards in doubtful anticipation and opens his empty eyes, his mouth wide with fear. Panic seizes the next man. He feels that the man in front of him is falling from the stick which links them. He stops in desperation, but topples forward. Exhausted, he raises his head towards the church. The pointed church spire is like the pointer on a weighing scale, a balance between life and death. At the tip of the tower, the balance breaks and changes the upward line into a downward line. Despair is etched in the expressions of the falling blind man. Turned away from the church, the landscape, and the world, he takes a last look from the emptiness of his hollow eyes into infinity. As if in a final gesture of farewell to the world, his hat falls from his head. While the first blind man disappears, terrified, into the water, the iris, the poor man's orchid, blossoms. This unsettling work is one of Brueghel's last. The painting stands for us as his ultimate masterpiece, his last will and testament. It symbolizes his genius in 3 ways. It exposes in a fascinating way his people and his world. It's a prime example of the manner in which he paints, and it reveals in an unparalleled fashion his paradoxical style. Brueghel paints mankind and his world in a way which is totally opposite to Van Eyck's heavenly liturgy and the earthly religion of Rubens. This contrast is also clear in the way in which the different artists paint. Compared to the glow of Van Eyck and the glory of Rubens, Brueghel's brush is simple and rather thin. If you examine the parable of the blind in terms of its brushstrokes, your eyes open wide in amazement. With a minimum of dots, commas, and lines, a maximum of quality of shape and clarity of image is created. A thin layer of white and gray is laid over the brown background wash, which shows through here and there. A couple of loose strokes are enough to create volume. On the gray expanse of the clothing, the folds and tucks are more finely developed. Brueghel models line and curve on the faces with very thin strokes. For the hair, he follows the direction of the lines. On the woolen bonnet, the strokes become smaller and the dots thicker. For the leaves and branches of the trees, he uses different flecks depending on the nature of the shape. Now broad or narrow, now thin again or thick. Everything is transparent, everything is naked, everything is real. The painting is on canvas, using water-based distemper. He uses a similar watercolor technique when painting in oils on wooden panels.